Hello, today on Uncut with Lucia, we have Bob Albo. Bob is the author of the book, Her Dark Matter Necklace. So Bob, thank you very much for spending this time with us.
Glad to be here.
My pleasure. So Bob, can you please tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So I am a native California. I married a gal from Minnesota. We have 3 kids, all adults now, off in the working world. And I was in the technology industry for about 30 years. And about a year or 2 ago, I got into writing. And I started with a short pamphlet. And from there, I've now gone into this fictional writing and wrote my first book, Her Dark Matter Necklace.
Okay, and you always wanted to be a writer, or is something that just happened?
Well, it actually came very late in life. It's more had a desire to communicate ideas. So that was really what drove me. And to get people to think about other things, kind of think outside of their daily lives, and ideally start to have some more in-depth conversations. So I've always been a curious person, and it's, you know, the world is just an amazing place. And when you start reading about some of the things that take place, like, and I'll just give it a simple example. You know, humans or Homo sapiens have been around for about 300,000 years. And for 270,000 years, they were not much different than animals. They would be in tribes, you know, maybe did a couple of drawings on cave walls, but not that different. And then about 30,000 years ago, something happened. And another thing that happened 30,000 years ago, coincidentally, Neanderthals were on the earth at the same time. And there was an overlap between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, but then, and Neanderthals were bigger, stronger, and had much larger brains than even modern day humans. And yet they're extinct, and probably extinct because of humans. So this happened 30,000 years ago too. So what happened 30,000 years ago that made man completely change so that we could start communicating instead of grunts, actually communicate, start to tell stories, start to plan? What changed? And it wasn't, I don't think it was necessarily physical, because it seemed to happen pretty broadly, I think. So here's where, this is the great thing about fiction, you can speculate. And so for me, it was consciousness. There was a deeper level of consciousness. And so that I weaved an idea like that into the book. So it starts with a big idea, and then you kind of speculate about how it could go, and then it becomes a part of the story.
So you, like, maybe you believe that there was something that triggered it, or someone, maybe it was a divine intervention or something like this?
I do. I mean, I do believe it was partially evolutionary, but I also do believe that there was some divine intervention.
This is very curious, and I really like this subject. When I started studying anatomy at the university, I said, like, this is not a coincidence. For example, I was amazed by our arm movement of prone and supination. Because we are the only animals who can do this movement. Yeah.
Yep.
Without this movement, we couldn't do many things. Yeah. Also, this, when we pinch, for example, the monkeys, they don't have this movement. And because of this, we are here, I believe, because monkeys are way stronger than us. So I always questioned myself about it. And I started reading your book already. And this is causing me to be even more curious about it. So my question for you is, do you think that science and religion can ever coexist?
Yeah, so I do think it can. And I think not only that, but in certain cases, it already does. I think for Buddhism, the religion of Buddhism is very consistent with science. So I don't think there's an issue. I think religion in general, like Christianity and other religions, when they focus on the message of love and leading a good life, then I think they're very much in sync with science. The problem is that a lot of religions go into the religious doctrine on how to do things. Like, in Christianity and for Catholics, women can't be priests for whatever reason. There are just examples where they get locked into doctrine rather than being open-minded and really following the underlying messages. And the problem is it's a very slow migration. I mean, it used to be evolution. Religious people didn't believe in evolution. Well, I think most do now, even the leaders. They used to also believe that Earth was the center of the universe. I think most now are open to the belief that maybe we're not the center of the universe and everything revolves around man. So I think it's slow, but the religions are typically some of the most bureaucratic organizations and the slowest to change. But I do think it will change, and hopefully that change will be for the good.
Yeah, hopefully. I agree with you. And Bob, we spoke last week about some curiosities. We spoke on our on the Relatable Voice podcast, and you told me about the gravity.
So it was in the context of was our universe actually designed or was it random? And I said the universe was actually designed, and I used science or the example of gravity to prove it. And my point was that gravity is the attractive force between two objects. I think most people know that. But what they probably don't know is that at Big Bang, if the force of gravity had been slightly stronger, then the Big Bang would have gone like this, and it would have come back and imploded. On the flip side, if the force of gravity had been a little weaker, then the universe would have, Big Bang, it would have exploded, but no stars or galaxies would have come together. So it turns out the difference is less than 1% from perfection. And so we're not talking about a different life in the universe. We're talking about no possible life in the universe. And this example is, there's other constants like the strong nuclear force. Same exact thing, a slight change, no life. So it's interesting because you can, this is, my view is that it's design, but a lot of people think it's random. It's just, there's no being that designed things. And their counter argument would be, well, it's random and there's an infinite number of universes just like ours. And we just happen to be in the one that works. So for me, that's more of a rationale that justifies, in my view, a bad hypothesis, a bad view. And I have an analogy, which is, let's say you were in a room and there was a man flipping the coin 100 times, and he flipped 100 heads in a row. And let's say you were in the room with a person that believed in the multiverse, and you were to say, it's really random. I bet you next time he flips a tail, or I bet you next time he flips a head. And the multiverse guy will say, well, 50-50, it could be a tail. So I'll bet you it's going to be a tail. And so the guy flips it the 101st time, and again, it's a heads, and you win the bet. But more importantly, you realize it was a two-headed coin, and it was designed, and it was always going to be a head. So all these things that come together. One thing you learn in math and statistics is you can prove anything, but what feels right to you? And so that's kind of the example I use on why I believe the universe was more designed. And again, where some people might argue the case with religious books, I'm actually arguing the case with science.
This is so fascinating. Since I was a kid, I was always very curious about these subjects. And sometimes I try to prove people like, apple is good and has many kinds of vitamins, the ones we need, and also beans and meat. And then this is like, it's not a coincidence. And then I always like try to convince some people, but in a way.
It's hard to convince people.
And Bob, you wrote this book, Her Dark Matter Necklace.
Mm-hmm.
And how was the writing process, as you come from a background of engineering? So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, this was a big insight for me because it's completely different than writing in business or in school. So when you write in business or school, you have a point of view, you then analyze it, you look at the facts, and you present the case, hopefully being able to convince the audience or whoever the reader is of your position. And in business, it's typically then to fund something or whatever. And it's really driven by your conscience, right? Because it's your problem solving. And my fictional writing, at least for me, is completely different. I think it's driven by my subconscious versus my conscious. I don't know where it's going to go. It's just ideas come and then I just start writing. And as an example, I was 80% through my book and I didn't know how the book would end. That's completely different than any kind of writing I had ever done before, because in fact, you started with the end case and then you built the case to get there. This was more of a work in process. And you just, it's amazing how it just all comes together to that end.
Yeah, and I started reading your book, as I said, and I see that Alice, of course, she wears a necklace, yeah? And how did you come up with the idea of having a teenager as a main character? Like, you write as if you were a teenager as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, well, I think everyone's has that little bit of a teenager in them. I think I've mentioned to you before that when I dream, I'm typically a young adult or a teenager. So I think consciously, my subconscious thinks I'm a teenager. So I don't want to set him or her correct, or I don't want to correct them. So I do think I'm still that young person. And the reason I chose Alice to be a teenager was because, and I wanted her to be an relatively ordinary teenager. And the idea was that she was going to be kind of living these different, through these different ideas that I had, well, I'll call them big ideas. And I wanted her to be approachable so that anybody reading the book would say, oh, yeah, if she can handle it, so can I. And, you can kind of present some facts and some of the emotions that she would have, and people would identify with that. And so that was kind of my means to facilitate that. I think also in hindsight, which I just based on the question that you let me know earlier, I was thinking about that, maybe there is a little bit of Alice or me in Alice, because I remember as a teenager that I always, you wanted to be accepted. You wanted, at least for boys, you wanted to kind of hide your emotions. You wanted to come across as being, strong and rational. And I've tied that into the book to actually make her have to overcome that to be successful. So there are some pieces that I think I can see in her that I can also see in me that you kind of say, well, those might have been weaknesses.
Yeah, I also, when I write my books, actually, they are books for kids. I'm going to the fourth book now. And I also think as if I'm a kid when I write the books. And also, I don't feel that I have this age in a normal life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because I think that's true for almost everybody. And it's funny when, you know, when we were kids and we would always look up to our parents and they would always seem so old, or to our grandparents and they would always seem so wise. In reality, if I wish I, as a kid, I would have said, do you sometimes think you're just a kid? And I guarantee, I am almost 100% positive they would answer that question, yes. So I think it really applies to just about everybody.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's a good way to think. And
Mm-hmm.
because you were talking about dreams, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you usually dream like and remember your dreams? Because I dream almost every day, and as Alice, yeah, I dream almost every day. And I remembered my dreams, and most of them look like as if I am in another world. So sometimes I think maybe I spent 8 hours on my real life, and now I am sleeping and talking with you. You know what I mean?
It's possible.
It's crazy.
We may both be dreaming.
Am I crazy?
I'm not sure the audience, when they listen to this, are going to hear much. just darkness.
Yeah, but I like one day I started thinking maybe that was my real life, and I'm here like cleaning, cooking, and this is just a dream.
You know, for me, it's really amazing when I dream. I don't know if the same thing is true for you, but my history kind of isn't there. The background. I mean, I could be a little boy growing up in a village in the country somewhere, and I would have no recollection of my actual real life history. The same thing with people that have been deceased, like your parents as an example, or your grandparents. They might pop in the dream. I wouldn't have a second thought about them being, oh, they passed away. No, it's just, oh, they're just right into it. So the other thing I think is really fascinating about dreams is you lose all of that perspective that you have in real life. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I don't know, does that happen to you too?
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Yeah. It's crazy because I dream a lot, and Marco barely dream, or he dreams, but he doesn't remember about his dreams. And sometimes I make that face like, I dreamt with this, and then, oh my God, no.
Yeah, you know what you can do though, next time when he's sleeping and he starts moving around, he's dreaming, wake him up.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually, when you first wake up, you actually do have pretty good recollection.
Yes, always.
So,
and I will try to write now, because after 1 hour, I don't remember anything.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Well, it's funny. Oh,
okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say that when I write also, and I sleep, I might wake up in the middle of the night and have some ideas. And so what I do is I just write down the ideas really quickly, just so I can, in the morning, then they'll get me going again. I don't know if do you do that with children's writing? Do you say, you might, let's say, be halfway through the book and say, oh, maybe it should go this way?
Yeah, I do it a lot. I never know how my books are going to end. Mm-hmm. This is something, I have characters, mm-hmm. but I have kind of the plot, but I don't have the end. So, and I think as if I am a kid, and then start writing is so nice, because it's like, it makes me even more creative than I am. Mm-hmm. So what I start is like, the crab or the cow or yeah. And Bob, I really like your book cover. It's
Oh, thank you.
beautiful. Yes, and I was thinking about someone painted or created, but it's not.
It's not, no.
It's
No,
not.
again, it's supposed to be just anybody, so that anyone would feel comfortable when they read Alice, reading the story, could say, okay, I could be Alice. Because, that's the funny thing about storytelling. It's the best storytellers are the ones where the audience actually feels a part of the story. So that's really the purpose of trying to make her just someone that anybody could put themselves in her place.
Okay, and your book is
Uh-huh.
considered visionary fiction.
Yeah.
And this is completely new for me. And please, can you tell our listeners what visionary fiction is?
Sure. So first off, it's not very well known, unfortunately. But so what it is, it's science fiction and either sci-fi or fantasy, but it also has a spirituality component to it. And then it typically involves a transformation of a person or a world. So that's what it is. And it was interesting because I was, as you were referring to, I was looking for books similar to mine. And so in Google search, I put in, sci-fi, spirituality. And it was interesting because the only things that came up were sci-fi and religion. And typically the religion tied to a alien religion or, star travel sorts of things. But there was nothing with what I would call true spirituality in there. And that's when it occurred to me it's one or the other. It's really hard for, at least the current way of books right now, to have both together. And so visionary fiction was the first time that I really saw that. And, there's a number of authors that are now visionary fiction authors. So it's, well, we'll see it. Hopefully more people will learn about it.
Bob, do you believe that we are alone in the whole universe?
No, I think that there are other beings. In fact, I speculate that in then Raina lives on a world, and there's probably thousands of worlds where they have intelligent life at least at the same level as ours. And it's actually then that you realize, in fact, the book I'm writing now, when they do start searching for extraterrestrial life, the intelligent, complex life with, a complex consciousness, and there's thousands, but when you divide that thousands by the number of planets in the universe and how long it will take, it would take millions, if not billions of years. Even if you could check thousands a day, that's when you realize how large the universe, it's incredibly large. So even if there's intelligent life, the chances of finding it are really, really slim. And did that, then I had to get a different way of finding that intelligence. But the universe is just amazingly large, which is another reason that you say the multiverse, where you have an infinite number of universes, an infinite number of infinite size universes. It's just mind-boggling. I think it's hard for the mind to really comprehend that. You comprehend a concept like infinity, which is 1 divided by 0 is infinity, and that seems pretty simple. But when you really take it to the other way, which is the big numbers, it's just stunning.
What book is currently on your bedside table?
So it's interesting because I've been doing more and more with consciousness and subconscious, doing research and starting to think that through. So a book that I read about 10 years ago is called Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. And it's the idea, thinking fast is those emotions that come to you really quickly. So you might see someone and think the person's cute, or you feel threatened, or a situation. So it's those emotions that come to you really quickly. And then thinking slow is the rational thinking, as well as your self-control. So the piece that tells you you shouldn't say anything, you should run away, or whatever. It's that self-control mechanism, and so they call it a system 1 and a system 2, or again, fast and slow thinking. Here, let me give you an example of what that is. They use this one example. So if a baseball bat and a ball together cost $1.10, and the difference, or the baseball bat costs $1 more than the ball, how much does the baseball bat cost, and how much does the baseball cost together?
$1.10, and if the ball is 10 cents, no? Okay,
so there's an example of that seems right.
Yeah.
So 10 cents for the ball, $1 for the bat, but the difference is 90 cents. So that's an example of your, right? A dollar minus 10 cents is 90 cents.
Wow.
So that's an example of your initial gut thinking. Now, if you had thought about it more carefully, you would have come up with the answer, which is $1.05 for the baseball bat and 5 cents for the ball. But it turns out that 80% of university students gave the same exact answer as you. So that quick thinking from that subconscious, just easy, and it just goes. So that's the book that I'm reading right now. And it's interesting because, again, I have a slightly different view on things, but there's some similarities and there's some differences. And one of the differences is because I believe in a soul, and I believe that a person's soul resides in their subconscious, and the soul can guide you. So so my theory is that you have a consciousness that is kind of getting all these different inputs from your subconscious. And if you really listen and are centered with your soul, you'll do the right things. And that compares to his book, which I don't believes in a soul. And also it's only once you go through that rational thinking, that slow thinking, that you will make those trade-offs and go with the self-control and the right decisions. So that was something that as an example. It's good to hear other theories and ideas, and then try to put it together.
Yeah, I'll take a note about this book. But
yeah, it's a good one. It's won a bunch of awards. It's about 10 years old.
Well, you have to show your book.
Love to, Lucia. So here it is. It is about a young girl, Alice, who is accepted into an elite school because she did very well on an entrance exam test. She answered a question which showed that she was someone special. And on her 15th birthday, she's given a necklace, the dark matter necklace, although she doesn't know what that is. And after that, she can start connecting to a universal spirit who gives her a command to bring beauty to the world, or else. And so it talks about her adventures, her journey, and the people and the obstacles that get in her way. But when she interacts with this universal spirit, it's at night when she dreams, actually, and she's able to go to new places. She visits an alien planet where she meets an underwater friend who's like a dolphin. And there's a lot of similarities between humans and this other species, but as well as many differences. And I believe in life, other life in our universe, because it's so large. So it's just a picture of that. And as I said, Alice, in that command, you can imagine if you were given that command. I mean, what do you do? And this is a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old girl who just wants to be accepted in school, just wants to have friends, tries to hide from her emotions, and she's really lost. So it just talks about her development over time, and has a climactic ending.
All right, where can we find your book and you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's Bob Albo, one word, .com. So that should be relatively easy. And then I'm on Facebook. Her Dark Matter Necklace is the page. And then also Instagram, which might be difficult for some people to find. And that is St. Robert's School. So
yeah, I'll be putting a link. I'll be putting a link.
Okay, great.
For people to see. And Bob, that was amazing. This book it's one of my favorite genres. Yeah, this genre is one of my favorites. And I didn't know about visionary fiction. So I'm sure many listeners also don't know about it, but it's very good that now you let us know, and I'm pretty sure that your book will be very successful.
Well, thank you.
You're most welcome, and thank you very much for spending your time with us here.
Okay, Lucia, appreciate you taking the time too. Take care.
Bye-bye.